Yo, and welcome back to the Banter Boys podcast. My name is Sanji, with me is Carl. How you doing, boy?
Very well, thanks, mate. How are you?
Doing excellent. I'm very excited for this episode. Our first promoted team episode, I was really worried that we weren't going to get a Bournemouth representative. But you know what? Now that I've kind of ruined the surprise, let's do our fan introduction segment, right? Tell us who you are, your Twitter handle, which club you are representing tonight, where you're from, and a little bit about yourself. What do you do?
So I'm Carl, obviously support AFC Bournemouth, originally from Bournemouth as well. There's only a few of us. So, one of the 5 fans that they've got. So originally from Bournemouth, now live in South London, and I am a account manager for a software company.
Okay. Wait, which software company?
Very small startup called Mention Me.
Oh, that's very cool. What does Mention Me? That's very interesting. What does Mention Me do?
So it's referral marketing software. So, you can go onto a website, you purchase something, and then it will say, hey, do you want to refer a friend? And we basically run the software for that for like 500 companies. That's very, very cool. Wow. Okay. I mean, we might have to have a totally different pod episode about your job. We're here for the football though, right? So typically how we do these episodes, listeners, is we have a few segments, general discussion. Then we obviously want to talk about, the draft side of the game, fan tracks, right? And then we'll talk a little bit about, trading, how Carl kind of goes about his business, how he wins his leagues maybe. The breakdown of general discussion, as always, is impact of new manager, new ownership. Maybe we'll get a bit of an explanation about that, because I think last time Bournemouth were in the league, Scott Parker was at Fulham or at that time or something like that, right? So new change completely. Previous season performance, you guys obviously did well in the championship, right? And now we want to see, are you expecting that you guys will maybe stick around or go back down? We'll find out. Some old assets, some new assets. Maybe we can look back in the 1920 season, right? That's the last time you guys were in the EPL. Some of the players that were, beasts in fan tracks then. We'll maybe look at the expected formation, starting 11, the impact of the subs, the fucking World Cup, the Winter World Cup, if anything. And then, in terms of draft advice, we'll find out, who's the first pick you suggest from Bournemouth, the next 3 picks, and then maybe a few hidden gems, at least one, right? And then, what your trading strategy is, form fixture, 2v1 trades, whatever your secret sauce is. But let's get started. And I think before we get started in terms of like the whole manager or ownership stuff, is how did you become, or why are you a Bournemouth fan? So grew up in Bournemouth. Dad's a Man United fan. Didn't want to go to Old Trafford.
How does that even work, man? That must be a painful time.
Yeah, exactly. Didn't want to travel up to Old Trafford every week, so decided to support the local team. So I was a season ticket holder for about 10 years when we were sort of in League 1, League 2. And then I moved away from Bournemouth. I went to university just as we started getting good, which is obviously typical. So I was based up in the Midlands for 3 or 4 years, and I didn't go to any home games, went to a lot of away games. And,
okay.
And now, because of our tiny stadium, like I can't get home tickets, but I go to sort of half of the away games every year. So it's quite nice now. We're in sort of the big leagues, as you were, because you get to travel around and see lots of nice new stadiums and some pretty impressive places.
Which would you say is the best away stadium you've been to?
I'd probably say Newcastle, but that's
really?
more for the nightlife, I think, after the game.
So, Carl, you're a bit of a partier then.
Well, I wouldn't go that far, but yeah.
All right, so let's talk about the ownership, new managerial settings. Maybe us average fans don't know about. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so last time we were in the Prem, we had obviously Eddie Howe. He kind of took us from the bottom of League 2 famously to sort of the Prem, and we sort of held our own there for 3 or 4 seasons. Yeah. Then we, he left, and we got relegated, spent a year in the Championship, just
just missed out in the playoffs last season, and then this year we put in Scott Parker, and came second, so pretty good. We really started the season last year very, very well. I think we were 14, 15 games unbeaten, and then sort of Fulham caught up, and we kind of just edged our way into the last automatic place. Sort of Huddersfield and Notts Forest were looking very close towards the end, but we managed to hold on. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting for Scott Parker, I think, because he didn't do a great job with Fulham when he was in the Prem, and I think from my perspective, like what I read online, I don't think the Fulham fans loved his style of football, and so I think they were quite keen to see him go. And so
it felt like he was more concerned about possession, keeping it tight at the back versus attacking football, like going gung-ho, right? I think he was kind of a bit scared in that sense, so I mean, is that what you guys are looking like right now? Is that what we can expect from Bournemouth then?
I mean, obviously, when we had Howe, we used to play pretty attacking football, and that was sometimes great, but also
I mean, listen, I'm a Chelsea fan, and I remember losing 4-0 to you guys, so not fun times, but we know how exciting the Cherries can be, right? But the problem with, I think, when Eddie Howe had them is that you guys were conceding way too many goals as well.
Yeah. I think last season we ended up on 20 clean sheets, so we definitely improved. And, we were, I think, probably second or third top goal scorers as well. So Championship's different league, I think. And it would be interesting to see what Scott Parker does next year when we're playing tough teams every week, basically.
Yeah. I mean, like, talking about, like, being the second or third highest scorers, Dominic Solanke, 29 goals, if I'm not mistaken. Obviously, he was a Chelsea player as well. So we know that, Chelsea tends to invest in, like, quality players. Like, would you say, like, a few seasons ago, compared to now, he's grown? Like, are we gonna expect a different Solanke?
I think so. Obviously, as I said, Championship's a different league. But last season, once he got going, he looked really good. I think he's a massive confidence player. Like, he needs to be scoring, and then he starts doing really, really well. But obviously, when he was in the Prem, maybe he wasn't getting that much game time at Chelsea and obviously Liverpool as well. And then I think he moved to us perhaps just towards the end of our time in the Prem, and obviously didn't have that much time to really prove himself. And I think we also had like Callum Wilson, players like that were keeping him out of the team. So I mean, it's going to be interesting. Well, our season relies on him ultimately. Like, if he doesn't score 10, 15 goals, I think there's no chance that we'll stay up next year.
Interesting. And in terms of ownership and stuff like that, has that changed over the last couple of years?
Yeah, I'm not too close to it. I mean, we've still got Max Demin, who's our sort of Russian investor, and he manages the club from afar. So we've got the chairman, who's a bit more visible, Mostyn. He's still sort of in the same position. We seem to have spent a bit more time putting in people like directors of football and things like that, which seemed to work well last season. We recruited well last year, and we got out of a championship, which is never never an easy thing to do. So
for sure,
can't complain at the moment.
Exactly, it's a more hectic schedule as well, right? More games per week, sort of thing. So, it's definitely a scrap down there. So maybe we can move on now to like previous season performance. Like, yes, we touched on the fact that you guys finished second with that automatic promotion spot and stuff, but maybe you can give us a bit more in depth about that and what you're expecting this season in the Prem. Yeah,
I mean, as I said, we started the season really, really well. We were 15 unbeaten. We were cruising basically. Had a tricky sort of festive period from what I remember, and sort of struggled through there. We actually ended the season reasonably well. I think we were 7, 8, 9 unbeaten, but there was a lot of draws in there. We were looking from a performance perspective a lot less convincing, and we sort of scraped through games. Whereas at the start of the season we were convincingly beating teams 3-4-0. So yeah, I mean, I think as you say, it's a long season in the Championship, and I think we didn't necessarily have a huge squad, so I think tiredness, those kind of things came in, but I think it's going to be tough, like whatever happens for all three promoted teams. I think ourselves, Fulham, Forest obviously spent a lot of money this summer, but I think it's going to be tough. It's such a different league than obviously the Championship, and so I think for all three of the teams there, I think we're all playing for 17th. Like that is where anything above that's a bonus. At the moment, I think we're bookies' favourite to go down. So read into that what you will, but
So what you tell me is put somebody on the opposite, right, and just be rich at the end of next season.
Well,
potentially.
Like the last time we came up, everyone wrote us off straight away, and actually, I think we came mid-table first season.
Yeah.
We came ninth second season, so we did really well. But under Scott Parker, completely different squad now as well. Like it'll be interesting to see how we do.
Yeah, for sure. So let's talk about some of the old assets versus new assets. Let's talk a little bit about, I guess, the players that have kind of left the club, right? Which I'll be honest, I was surprised with seeing some of these names, but Gary Cahill, I honestly thought the guy retired. Like, I didn't realize he was still playing football, right? But Gary Cahill has left, right? Luke Nippard is another name that sounds very familiar. But out of the list, like, I'll go through the big names. Why don't you tell me, like, who you believe might be the biggest loss, right? So, Gaza, Brennan Camp, Ryan Glover, Connor Curran-Brown, Owen Palmer, Aaron Roberts, Jack Seddon, Gavin Kilkenny, and Zeno Rossi. Any big losses there?
To be honest, obviously Gary Cahill, he featured quite a lot at the start of our last season in the Championship, but at the start, and then we got Nat Phillips on loan from Liverpool, and so he kept Gary Cahill out the side, and also I don't think Scott Parker was a huge fan of Gary Cahill, and I thought it was pretty good when he played for us, but obviously he's an old guy now and he's getting slower. And I think he was built in more for the experience of sort of helping some of the youngsters.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
I'd say he's probably the best player from that list. Most of the others, youth team reserve, so no real worries there. Like they've probably gone to sort of League 1, League 2 teams, which is probably more their level.
Yeah.
Kilkenny played a little bit. I think he's gone on loan to, I want to say Preston, but I might be wrong about that.
Or is it Preston or Stoke?
Stoke.
I feel like it's Stoke. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah. No, he went to Stoke. He's decent enough. And so fine. We've let him go out on loan. I think we've brought in a couple of other players into midfield anyway, so I don't think he was going to get game time. So to be honest, we've not lost anyone major. I think we've also not signed anyone major either. So
yeah, I mean, we can jump into the new signings then, right? Well, I think the first name that everyone's gonna kind of recognize coming in from West Ham, Ryan Fredericks, right? How are you feeling about this signing?
I think it's just a competition for Adam Smith. So obviously Adam Smith's one of the only players we've really got now that played previously for us in the Prem, and so
Cherry legend, I want to say.
Yeah, absolutely. Like definitely underrated from the Bournemouth fans. I think he's he's been with us for a number of seasons, so done really, really well. But yeah, I think just for more competition. Sometimes Adam Smith also goes to left back. And so it gives us a few more options as well, just to have, like, obviously Ryan Fredericks wasn't playing every game at West Ham, but he's obviously a good player, and so yeah, happy with that, to be fair. Like, as a free transfer, I think, or very cheap anyway, like it's a really good signing.
Yeah, fair enough. The other name, Joe Rothwell from Blackburn. Are we expecting him to be a serious contender as a Fantrax asset?
Probably not as Fantrax asset, being honest. I think he'll rotate with one of our two centre mids, who will probably be Lerma and Lewis Cook. starting.
Yeah.
So again, a bit of competition in that centre mid. I mean, he'll play, but probably not every week.
Yeah. And I mean, it's heartwarming to hear that, you know, David Brooks is in the clear. And I feel like getting him back in the squad, maybe not at the start of the season, but at some point will be like a new signing. Because we know his potential.
Absolutely. He was quality last time that we were in the Prem. Obviously, amazing news that he's kind of recovered. So I think Scott Parker has said, obviously, he's not going to rush him back. And I don't know if he's been involved in pre-season training, but not in terms of any matches. So I wouldn't count on him playing in maybe the first part of the season. But when he does come back, like, he is a great player. And to be honest, with one or two good seasons under his belt, he'll move to a bigger team in Bournemouth. Like, he's better than us. And so obviously, like, looking forward to seeing him sort of get back to playing again.
Okay, great. Are there any other new assets that you want to discuss, or maybe potential ones like signings that you guys are kind of looking at bringing in? Yeah,
so we've got Lloyd Kelly, who currently plays centre back for us. So he's pretty much a nailed on starter at centre back. We obviously had Nat Phillips last season on loan in the other centre back spot, and so I think we'll be looking to fill that gap with a centre back. And so obviously Nat Phillips is an obvious replacement. He played well last season. But I did see yesterday that we've been linked with another Liverpool centre back called Van der Berg. I don't really know much about him, to be honest, but you know, like, we need to fill that position. We're a bit light there. And obviously with Cahill going as well. So yeah, I think that's definitely the spot that I'm looking to see who we're going to get in, because I think we might struggle otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, Nat Phillips was an absolute monster when he was an asset in Fantrax. And honestly, if he can get that Bournemouth move, I'd be very tempted.
Yeah.
Like, very, very tempted. Because maybe he could be like the Ethan Pinnock of last season, right? That hidden gem we want to say, right? But I don't want to ruin any of the surprises. I think maybe now we could probably move on to the expected formation and starting 11.
Sounds good. So I guess for me, I think the formation is going to be interesting. I suspect we'll play a 4-5-1. Maybe reverting to a 4-3-3. If we're, you know, attacking at the end of the game, something like that. To be honest, our starting 11's more or less nailed. I would say. So Travers in goal. Really good goalkeeper, player of the season last year. So definitely one to potentially stream in leagues where you need a goalie. I
mean, if you can get those saves, why not? I'm all about save points, right? Yeah. I don't touch a keeper until the 16th round or after the draft.
Of course. Then probably Smith at right back, maybe Fredericks, Kelly at centre back. I would say a new centre back at the other centre back spot. We've got Zamora, who plays left back. He's pretty attacking, which is kind of interesting for Fantrax to see, especially if Parker plays him like he did last year, which was more as a midfielder, kind of getting the Marcus Alonso vibes or something like that.
Yeah, from what I heard, like Zamora and I think Jaden Anthony has like quite a good chemistry, right? Obviously Jaden Anthony finished top of your team with key passes, I think 71 last season.
Yeah.
Zamora was 7th with 24 key passes. So clearly something's going on that left side, right? So maybe Zamora is one of those players that we definitely need to keep our eye on, right? But yeah, go ahead, continue with the formation.
Then we've got Lerma and Lewis Cook probably playing sort of behind the middle front three, so more defensive. Lerma, obviously, that real defensive midfielder, will look to break up play. Will get a lot of yellow cards in the process.
Yeah. As those Colombians are, South Americans in general, they're just feisty, man.
Yeah. I mean, he did better last season. I think he only got sort of 9 yellow cards, which is surprising.
Only 9.
Yeah, exactly. And then Lewis Cook, who will be more of that heartbeat in the centre midfield, will look to get a lot of the ball through him. And then we'll have, just behind Solanke, we'll have Christie on the right probably. Billing just behind Solanke, and then Anthony, as you said, on the left. So, it's a very new look team compared to the one that people who obviously played Fantrast back in the day will be used to, because we've not got any of the same players really there other than Smith. So, and maybe a Lerma as well. So yeah, it's relatively new. So I think a lot of our assets probably won't be drafted too early, which obviously is potentially interesting to keep an eye on the waiver wire.
Yeah, I mean, the saddest part about all of this is not having Junior Stanislas, right? I want to say he was a Fantrax legend coming from Bournemouth, so
he's still in the squad, but he's injured. Like, he's just constantly
story
injured.
of his life, though, right? He's always injured. Yeah, it's so sad, man. He's such a quality player, honestly. Okay, I mean, let's talk a little bit about then the 5 subs in the World Cup. Do you think this is gonna impact you guys in any way?
Yeah, I mean, generally, as a football fan, I'm not a massive fan of that ruling. I think it definitely benefits the bigger teams with the bulkier squads. So your Man Cities, who've got 2 or 3 great players in every position, it's certainly
2 or 3 great starting squads. Just from their subs alone. Yeah,
exactly. So I think for us, we do have a lighter squad, and so it's probably not going to benefit us. But it is what it is, right?
Okay. What about the World Cup?
World Cup probably will benefit us, to be fair. We've only got Billing, who will play for Denmark, I imagine. And then we've got a couple of the Welsh lads as well, but let's be honest, they're probably going to get eliminated quite early. So Kiefer Moore, who's more of a backup for Bournemouth anyway. Mepham, who's, again, a bit more of a backup. And then Brooks, who I think the World Cup will come too early for him, but again, it's going to benefit us. We've not got our whole team playing at the World Cup, and so yeah, I know we've got Chelsea as well as soon as we come back.
I was just about to say, am I bracing myself for another 4-0? Because we're definitely going to be gutted, in terms of squad players going off, right? So yeah, we might have to pod again around that time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's now jump into the draft side of the game. Unless there's other information you kind of want to drop for us. Anything else interesting?
I don't think so. I think that's the main parts really. I think it'll be an interesting start to the season. But it's a bit of an unknown under new management or newish management in the Prem anyway. So yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Okay, brilliant. So who's your first pick from Bournemouth? Who are you going to go with?
Definitely Solanke. Obviously, 29 goals last season. Maybe also a little bit underrated because Mitrovic just had the most ridiculous season ever. And so people weren't talking about Solanke in any other season. They really would have been. So yeah, I think Solanke for me, he's got to be drafted in sort of leagues of sort of 8 players and above. And so for me, first Bournemouth man off the list.
Yeah, Solanke also, I think, was 3rd for key passes for Bournemouth with 45 of them. And he racked up a few assists as well, right? I think he got 7 of them, tied with Jaden Anthony. So is he also on penalties?
Yes, I think he was on penalties for most of the season. Yeah.
Okay, so, I mean, you've got that safety net as well, right? Just in case. So, yeah, I can't disagree with that one. What about the next 3 picks? Who are you going to go with?
So I think for me, it would have to be a pretty deep league, but I'd say Billing probably. He got quite a lot of goals, quite a lot of assists, generally pretty involved last season. So yeah, I would say he's probably one I would draft in maybe up to like a 12-man league. Next 3 picks after that, I mean, I don't think anyone's going for them unless it's something like a 20-man league. But I would say Zamora. I think it'd be interesting to see how he does. Definitely one to keep an eye on in these first few weeks. And then Travers, more as a goalkeeper that's going to get a lot of action, a lot of saves.
Yeah. Maybe
some clean sheets if last year was anything to go by. But yeah, I think he's going to be pretty involved.
Yeah. So I want to kind of discuss the assets you mentioned, but also maybe potentially throw some names out that we haven't discussed. So obviously Philip Billing, definitely high on him. I think in the 2019-2020 season, he finished top Fantrax scorer, right, for Bournemouth. Unless, you know, Callum Wilson was there and Fraser was there, but then they're not included in this set of data that I'm looking at. I'm just looking at current Bournemouth players, right?
Yeah.
And he finished, I think, around 77th overall. And if you look at the goals that he scored last season as well, second highest scorer for you guys with 10 goals, right? He was also fourth on key pass list with 43 of them. And I think he was also in the assist list, top assister, 10 of them. So
yeah,
he's like all over the place. Like he's involved in everything that you're doing, right? So, and I'm sure he is always racks up like the interceptions, the tackles, that sort of stuff. Yeah, I think if anything, I might argue maybe go Billing over Solanke in that sense.
Yeah, I mean, it would be interesting. I mean, Solanke, I think just a little bit more goes through him and he will be that focal point of our attack. That being said, Billing does tend to push forward almost into that second striker role if we go to a 4-4-2. So it'll be interesting. Again, I think definitely one to watch over the first few weeks. If you're in a, you know, less than a 10 to 12 man league, I'd say you're probably not going to draft him, but put him on your watch list and see what happens.
So, like, I know you mentioned Travers and Zamora as well, but another name, well, a couple of names that I kind of want to mention. One that is definitely keep catching my eye is Ryan Christie as well, right? I think second highest number of assists with 8 of them. He also scored a couple of goals, maybe. And in terms of key passes, he had the second most key passes, right, with 56 of them. Is by any chance Ryan Christie on set pieces and corners and stuff like that?
I think it switches quite a bit, but yes, I think he does take some set pieces. I think he's actually a good shout for someone, again, to keep an eye on. Like last season, I think Bournemouth fans were a little bit disappointed with some sides of his game. Like he missed a lot of good chances.
Really?
And
okay.
I know Celtic fans, you know, they weren't disappointed to see him go, but they definitely were sort of saying that, you know, that side of his game could improve.
Yeah.
That being said, as you said, he was getting lots of key passes, lots of assists. So good one to keep an eye on. Maybe a little bit less attacking than Jaden Anthony on the left, but yeah, I think could be pretty good to keep an eye on.
And that's the perfect segue for the last one I kind of want to mention. Jaden Anthony, top of the key pass list with 71 of them. 8 goals, which puts him, I think, third highest for goals scored for Bournemouth last season in the Championship. And also tied third for assists with Dom Solanke on 7 of them. Should we be considering him a bit higher?
I think only in very deep leagues. I think my challenge with him is that last season unbelievably was like his first full professional season, and like he hadn't really played much time at all, you know, under like previous managers or you know, and so I think it's going to be a big step up for him, and I would not be personally drafting him. I play in 10-man league and a 12-man league. I probably won't draft him, but I will definitely keep an eye out for him.
Interesting. Yeah, I think he's so fresh that like even when I was looking at the Who Scored data, they don't even have how tall he is or how much he weighs. So he's clearly just broken onto the scene, right?
Exactly.
That's great. So I think now we can jump into hidden gems, maybe.
Yeah, sounds good.
What have you got up your sleeve?
Got to be David Brooks. No one's going to draft him, or nobody who's sort of done their research will probably draft him. But one to keep an eye on the updates from Parker and obviously the rest of the management. I've obviously want to see him back, and I think he's, on his day, he's one of our best players.
So I mean, if a manager or your league has like an IR spot, which I assume David Brooks would be flagged in that sense, right? Would you suggest stashing him then immediately? And if you are trying to get him, which player you think drops out of that starting 11 for him?
I think it's going to be competition for Christie because he plays on the right. But obviously I mean, he can play anywhere in midfield, so I'd also be looking at Anthony as potentially someone who could lose a bit of game time to him. I think, I mean, there's worse shouts for people to stash than him. But to be honest, I think he'll go undrafted in most leagues. So you might be wasting that pick if you're.
Fair enough. Yeah, makes sense. Okay, that was great. So. Are there any other players that we should be considering? I don't know, any other hidden gems? Yeah.
I'd say if we re-sign him, Nat Phillips, obviously.
Yeah.
Particularly if it's a league which counts aerials for defenders, which some do, some don't that I play in. But obviously, as you said, he was a bit of a beast when he was starting games for Liverpool, and so. Yeah, I'd be looking at him potentially as a nice hidden gem.
Yeah, I mean, in the 2021 season, I think Nat Phillips put up 216 points in about 15 to 17 games. He was basically going around 12.5 points per game, right?
Yeah.
And again, if we go back to the whole Ethan Pinnock comparison, the reason I say that, and sure, maybe Bournemouth might concede goals, but he's gonna have a lot of work to do in that sense, right?
Yeah.
He's gonna have to be in the thick of things if Bournemouth want to stay up in the league as well. So yeah, definitely fingers crossed that he comes through. So just kind of to go through the list of players that you discussed. So the names like Billings, Zamora, Travers, even Jaden Anthony, etc. Which rounds would you be taking them in, right? So let's start with Dom Solanke. What round are you gonna try and draft him in? Let's assume for a 12-person league.
For a 12-person league,
yeah,
I'd probably be looking to put him in as my third striker. So maybe round 9, 10, something around that level, I'd say.
What about Billing?
Definitely towards the end of the draft, maybe 14, 15, something like that.
Okay. Zamora.
Probably wouldn't draft him.
Interesting. I guess see how he performs, and then if he's putting up decent numbers, grab him as soon as possible.
Yeah, and I just think generally, most people won't know the Bournemouth team in huge amounts of detail. So I think he's one that you can leave on draft day and then pick up if you need to over the first few weeks. All
right. Oh, what about Travers?
Maybe because I'm a bit biased, I might go for that goalkeeper 16th spot.
Yeah.
I think he'd be. We had Ramsdale previously, and he did a really great job in Trax. So
yeah,
I'm thinking he's going to be pretty similar. He's going to have a lot of work to do, and ultimately he'll get a lot of saves.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. And what about the couple of names that we mentioned towards the end? Ryan Christie, if you were to go for him.
I probably would leave him on draft day again. Okay. I just think there are so many other players that come ahead of him that actually you can leave him and pick him up if he starts well. Because I think there are proven names in there. Okay,
and finally Jaden Anthony.
I'm going to say the same. I think leave him on draft day. People don't know him. You can use your niche Bournemouth knowledge to pick him up at a bit of a steal later in the season.
Absolutely love it. All right. That is really useful information. I'm gonna try to stash this episode until the start of the season and after my draft. But no, thank you so much for your insight. So let's move on to the final segment, which is trading assets. So quick question: how long have you been playing Fantrax and or Toga? If you were,
Yeah, so I was in Toga back. That was 3-4 seasons ago. That folded.
Yeah, it's It feels like forever.
I think my league. I've been involved in 2 leagues, and I think we've been playing for 6 or 7 seasons. So, normally it's sort of a 10-man league and a 12-man league. So yeah, been involved for a few years now, which is obviously a good way to spend your Saturdays and Sundays.
I mean, stress. If you say stress is a good thing, are you one of those managers that chases lineups as soon as they come out?
I do have the FOTMob app, which notifies me as soon as the lineups come through.
See, Carl's giving you some good tips, guys. Pick this stuff up. Go down to the FOTMob app.
FOTMob, yeah.
FOTMob. Okay, yeah. I do it a lot more. I don't know if it's ghetto, but I'm on Twitter and I just hit refresh, because I don't trust any of these apps. Sometimes I feel like they get it wrong, like even positionally sometimes and stuff like that. So I just go with the original account and just try to have maybe the player loaded, read the news in the background and have the trigger just ready to go as soon as I see the lineups and just kind of go with that.
Yeah, my other top tip is I'm commissioner in one of the leagues, joint commissioner with someone. And I've made friends with him so that he does some lineup changes for me when I'm actually at the games because I can't get signal. So I'm like, well, if this happens, trade him. Or if this happens, switch him out. So
For sure. I mean, that's a pretty sweet arrangement to have. Okay, so in terms of trading, are you big into trading? Do you look at form? Do you look at fixtures? Do you do 2v1 trades? What's your secret sauce?
For trading with other managers, unfortunately, I'm in 2 leagues where there's no trust, so very little transfer activity happens. I have been involved in trade. In fact, I'm probably the person that's been involved in most of the trades.
Okay.
I feel like other people in the leagues maybe just just do stupid things like Ronaldo for Steve Cook or something. I don't know, something silly.
Oh Jesus!
Whereas I feel like I would always give a fair trade, which I think will benefit both teams. And one of my leagues is a playoff format at the end, so always with the view that sort of helps both of the teams in the playoffs or getting into the playoffs anyway. So. Yeah, I mean, not too much transfer activity, but I do. I'm pretty heavily involved in the waivers. So, one of my leagues has kind of standard free agent waiver pickups with a waiver wire order. The other implemented the budget sort of system last season, which worked really well actually. So I think I'm going to implement that in the other league that I run. So yeah, I mean, I'm pretty active on that side of things.
Okay, fair enough. So I mean, before we kind of wrap things up, I kind of want to gauge your season. What are you expecting in the first few game weeks? Because you've got a bit of a tough start, right? You've got Aston Villa at home, Man City away, Arsenal at home, Liverpool away, right? And we're talking about keeping an eye on these Bournemouth assets. I feel like we're not gonna get a true reflection of the potential of some of the players that you have, right? Maybe by game week 6, let's say, where you face Nottingham Forest, we'll get to see your team actually have the opportunity to have the ball a bit more and play a bit more football, sort of thing, right?
Yeah, I think August is going to be a bit of a write-off, to be honest. We're probably only looking at a point maybe against Villa. We're not going to get anything probably against City, Arsenal or Liverpool. So yeah, I mean, to be honest, I would be looking at trades for any of the drafted Bournemouth assets at the end of August. So your likes of Solanke, because they won't have seen much of the ball in those first 4 games. And, I think there'll be a decent person that you can probably pick up at a bit of a cut price. So, yeah, look at Solanke. Maybe put Travers in goal for those first 4 games if you don't worry about goals conceded too much. It's going to get a lot of action. And like you said, our first winnable game is probably the game. I think it's away to Forest. In September, so looking forward to that one. In fact, I'm gonna get tickets for it for sure.
Love it. And I mean, even sometimes I like to look at the final 3 fixtures, because that's if your league plays with playoffs, right? Game week 36, 37, 38 tends to be those sort of playoff fixtures. Crystal Palace away, Manchester United at home, Everton away. It seems like 2 of those 3 are decent fixtures for you guys, right? And if, let's say, by then you're fighting to avoid relegation, you're having to, let's say, score goals and stuff like that, maybe you want to target some Bournemouth forward players, right? Or some attacking players around that time as well.
Yeah, I think so. I think personally, I think Everton might struggle this season. I think they might be. Yeah. I think the 3 promoted teams are probably going to be in contention for relegation. I think it's going to be Everton, Leeds, maybe Palace. So obviously if we've got Palace and Leeds towards the end of the year, definitely 6-pointer games potentially there. And I'd be looking at a decent end to the season after such a hard start.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Leeds at home in game week 34, and in 35 you got Chelsea at home. So
Yeah.
probably two winnable fixtures, right? Based on our history.
And I think we've got Southampton just before that as well.
Yeah,
and again, I
you
think,
do,
I
yeah.
think they're going to struggle as well next year.
Yeah.
So I think our end of the season is going to be tough, but a lot easier. But
Yeah.
we might have quite a lot riding on it by then. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
we'll see.
I mean, it's gonna be exciting regardless, right? And I love your passion for trying to pitch Travers as much as possible, because I'm sure as like a true fan of any club in the EPL, owning your own players, your own assets, it's a special bond, right? It's a special feeling. So yeah, I love that, man. Carl, thank you so much for your time tonight. It's truly been an honor to have a Bournemouth fan on our podcast. It's for the first time as well. Typically we just chat with all these top club players, right? And I don't want us to come off so plastic all the time, but yeah, honestly, it's been such a great chat. Do you have anything to kind of sign off with? Anything you kind of want to add?
I don't think so. I think hopefully next season I'll be having the same chat with you, and we will have just come mid-table.
Would love it.
We would have had a boring season, winning half our games, losing half of them, and we can have this chat next year. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, I mean, we definitely have to catch a game in London, right? Would love to meet up for a beer. Maybe a Chelsea-Bournemouth game. You never know, right?
Well, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We normally do well at Stamford Bridge, so yeah, I'll be happy with
Exactly.
that.
Yeah. All right. Fantastic. All right, listeners. Thank you so much for listening to tonight's episode. I'm trying to figure out who we got next. I think we have Leicester next, potentially. And yeah, it's another wonderful account from our community as well. Carl, I don't know if you've taken part in our Twitter community, like the whole Draft PL community, but definitely get involved, get in the thick of things. We've got a fantastic community, right? They are the reason why we keep doing what we do, right? Your support, your love, all of that. Just, yeah, get involved, start a conversation like Joe from the Draft Society always says, and yeah, just have fun.
Will do. Nice.
Awesome. All right, well, we'll catch you on the next episode then. Peace.
See ya. Thanks.